Hi Reddit, I'm 29F and I've been married to my husband, who's 31M, for almost 4 years now. We've always had a stable, low-drama relationship. He's calm, even-keeled, not super romantic, but dependable. That's what drew me in, honestly. After a few rough relationships in my early 20s, I found his quiet steadiness comforting. About a year ago, we both agreed we were ready to start a family. It was an emotional decision for me. I've always wanted to be a mom, and he said he did too. We even had this cute little baby countdown calendar on the fridge and everything. Month after month, we tried. I did ovulation tracking, basal body temp, the whole 9 yards. But nothing happened. I didn't worry at first. A few months in, I thought maybe I was just too stressed. Then 6 months passed, and the worry started creeping in. I went to my doctor and got a full workup, blood tests, hormone levels, ultrasounds. Everything came back perfectly normal. According to the doctor, I was healthy and should have no issues conceiving. That's when I suggested my husband get tested too. Just to rule things out. He seemed weirdly defensive about it. Said it was probably just stress or bad timing, and that we should keep trying naturally. I didn't push it right away because I figured maybe it made him feel emasculated or something. I let it go for a few more months, but the negative pregnancy tests kept piling up, and so did my doubts. After 9 months of nothing, I brought it up again, more seriously this time. I said I wanted us both to get tested because I was starting to worry something was wrong. I made sure to be gentle about it, but his reaction caught me completely off guard. He got annoyed. Cold, even. He told me I was being obsessive and that I needed to relax or I'd ruin everything by overthinking it. That hit hard. I wasn't trying to be obsessive. I just wanted to understand why it wasn't happening. When I asked again about getting a sperm analysis, he shut it down immediately. Said he was not doing that, and that it was humiliating. Then he did this thing he always does when he wants to avoid a fight. He got extra affectionate. Told me we'd get there eventually, and that he believed in us. It felt like comfort at first, but the more I thought about it, the more it felt like a distraction. The next couple of months, I backed off. I didn't mention tests or doctors. I kept hoping things would go back to normal. I even convinced myself maybe it was me after all, something they hadn't caught yet. Then weird little things started happening. One day, I found a receipt in his jeans pocket from a drugstore across town. He never shops there. It was for condoms. That made no sense. We hadn't used those in almost a year. When I asked him about it, he told me it was probably old, even though the date said otherwise. A couple of nights later, he came home late and said he'd been stuck at work. But he smelled like someone else's perfume. Not a lot, just enough to make my stomach twist. Still, I didn't say anything. I told myself I was overreacting. That I was just emotional because of all the pregnancy stress. But deep down, something wasn't adding up. That's when I started digging. I don't consider myself a snoop. I've always believed in respecting privacy, even in marriage. But something about the way he was acting, it made me feel like I was being kept in the dark. So, one afternoon while he was out running errands, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through his office. At first, I was just looking for anything that might explain what was going on, maybe old prescriptions, medical documents, anything that would help me understand. But everything looked normal. Drawers full of bills, tax stuff, a few random work files. Nothing unusual. Until I opened the locked drawer. We both have keys to it, but I'd honestly never used mine. It was mostly where he stored tech stuff and backups. Inside, tucked under an old laptop, was a flash drive in a clear case labeled with just one word, private. I don't know what I expected. Maybe porn. Maybe nothing at all. But what I found, I'll never forget it. The flash drive held a folder full of medical records, his. I started scanning through them, heart pounding. And then I saw it. Vasectomy consultation, completed. Procedure date, 18 months ago. Post-op notes, successful. Follow-up, 0 sperm count confirmed. I read that last line 5 times. 0 sperm count. I was frozen. I couldn't believe what I was reading. 18 months ago, that was 6 months before we even started trying. He had gotten a vasectomy, before we ever had the baby conversation. Which meant he had known the entire time that I couldn't get pregnant. That every month I cried over another negative test, every time I tracked my cycle or blamed myself, he knew. He watched me go through all of that, never once saying a word. I closed the folder, sat on the floor of his office, and just stared at the wall for what felt like hours. He lied to me. For over a year. About something this huge. About something that could change the entire direction of our lives. And that wasn't even the worst part. There was another folder on that drive. It was labeled with a woman's name I didn't recognize. I clicked on the folder, unsure of what I was even looking for, but my gut already knew it wasn't good. Her name was Elise. I didn't recognize it at first. The folder had screenshots, messages, and a few photos. My heart was already pounding when I opened the first document. It was an email thread. From him to her. It started out innocently enough. A few months after his vasectomy, he'd messaged her through a professional networking site. At first it seemed work-related, but it quickly turned personal. The tone shifted fast. There were compliments, jokes, inside references. Then one message stopped me cold. I keep thinking about that night in Dallas. Can't stop. I scrolled faster. Messages piled up, some flirty, some outright romantic. There was a picture of her in a hotel room mirror, wearing one of his t-shirts. And then a selfie of them together, him half asleep, her clearly holding the camera while lying next to him. I knew that face. That sleepy smirk. It was the same one he wore after Sunday naps with me on our couch. One screenshot showed a calendar entry titled Weekend with E.S.F. It was dated the exact weekend he told me he had a team retreat in Northern California. I had asked to come, and he told me no, said it was guys only. I remember baking him muffins before he left. Muffins. For a weekend with someone else. I scrolled further, and that's when I saw the part that broke me completely. He had written to Elise about us trying for a baby. Except he made it sound like a joke. She still thinks we're trying. Honestly, it's kind of sad. She'd be a great mom, but not to my kid. That line hit harder than anything else. Not only had he lied, he had mocked me. Mocked how badly I wanted a family. Mocked every single tear I'd shed, thinking something was wrong with me. At that point, I couldn't even cry. It was like my body went into shutdown mode. Everything around me felt still, like the air had disappeared from the room. And right then, I realized this wasn't just betrayal. This was cruelty. Calculated, cold-blooded cruelty. I copied everything. The messages, the photos, the records. I put them on my own drive. I left his office exactly as I'd found it, closed the drawer, and sat in silence until I heard his car pull into the driveway. And just like that, I pasted on a smile and acted like everything was fine. Because I wasn't ready to confront him. Not yet. The day after I found the flash drive, I didn't sleep at all. I spent the entire night going back and forth between rage and disbelief. My stomach was twisted in knots, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw that line, she still thinks we're trying. But instead of confronting him, I played it cool. Because now I had a plan. The timing was almost too perfect. That weekend, we had a small dinner party planned at our place. Just a few close friends, his coworker Mark and his wife, my best friend Ria, and a couple from our gym. I'd been the one to organize it weeks ago, back when I was still clueless and hopeful and trusting. He tried to get out of it, said work had been draining and he wanted to cancel. But I insisted. I said I needed the distraction, that it would be good for both of us. He agreed. That Saturday, everything went off without a hitch. I cooked like I always did, pasta, salad, garlic bread, wine. I wore a dress I knew he liked, the one he used to compliment before all the lies started. I smiled, I laughed, I acted like nothing was wrong. Inside, I was shaking. The conversations flowed easily. Everyone was in a good mood. Music played low in the background, and for a couple of hours, it almost felt normal. Almost. And then, when dessert was about to be served, I stood up and asked if I could say a few words. Everyone turned toward me, expecting a toast or maybe a joke. Instead, I pulled a small Bluetooth remote from my pocket. Our living room TV lit up behind me. At first, it was just a photo of me and my husband, one I loved, from our second anniversary. We looked so happy. Then the next image loaded. A screenshot. Of that message. She still thinks we're trying. Honestly, it's kind of sad. She'd be a great mom, but not to my kid. The room went silent. My husband's face turned white. He tried to speak, but I held up my hand. And then the next slide appeared. And the next. And the next. Screenshots of the emails. The hotel photos. The vasectomy records. All of it. I looked each of our friends in the eye and said, this is what he's been doing while I've been blaming myself for not getting pregnant. Thought you should all know who you're eating with. Mark and his wife looked horrified. Ria's mouth was hanging open. One of the gym friends started crying and said she'd had a miscarriage last year, and this hit way too close. My husband stood there, frozen. Then he stammered something about privacy and airing dirty laundry. But nobody was listening to him anymore. I turned off the TV, walked into the kitchen, and calmly served dessert. Chocolate cake. His favorite. He didn't eat a bite. After everyone left that night, some hugging me, some glaring at him, some too stunned to say anything, I went straight to the guest bedroom and locked the door. He didn't try to follow. Didn't even knock. I think he knew there was nothing left to say. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of him packing. Quiet rustling, drawers opening and closing. I peeked through the cracked door and watched him folding shirts, stuffing chargers and socks into a duffel bag like a man who knew his time was up. He didn't even look mad, he looked scared. Scared of what I might do next. By noon, he was gone. No note. No goodbye. Just gone. I expected to feel triumphant. Empowered. Liberated even. But instead, I felt empty. The house was quiet in a way that didn't feel peaceful. It felt abandoned. I walked into the bedroom we used to share and stared at the imprint his pillow had left on the mattress. And then I saw it. A torn piece of paper on the nightstand with just one line written in rushed handwriting. Please don't tell Elise. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. He wasn't sorry about what he did to me. He was just worried I'd ruin his side relationship. I guess I was the messy secret he didn't want traced back. So of course, I told her. I didn't do it out of spite. I didn't scream or threaten or expose him online. I sent Elise a simple message through the same professional platform they'd used. I introduced myself, attached screenshots, and said, "You deserve to know the truth. Do what you want with it." She didn't respond right away. But 3 days later, she did. And what she said changed everything. When her name lit up in my inbox, I froze. For a second, I actually debated not opening it. I wasn't sure I wanted to know anything else. But curiosity won, like it always does. Her message was short. Blunt. No emojis. No apology. She wrote, "I know who you are. I've known for months. He told me you couldn't have children, said he stayed married to you out of guilt. I didn't know he had a vasectomy. Thank you for confirming." That last line hit like a freight train. She knew about me. He never hid me. But he'd rewritten our story. Twisted it into something that made him the noble one. I was just the broken wife he was too kind to leave. And Elise? She was his second chance at happiness. I stared at the screen, mouth dry, heart pounding. This wasn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. This wasn't some brief affair that spiraled. This was a long, carefully constructed narrative, one where he was the martyr, I was the burden, and Elise was the prize he had earned. I wrote back, "I'm not infertile. He had a vasectomy 6 months before we even started trying. I found the records. He's been lying to both of us." No response. Not that day. Not the next. But a week later, I got another message. This one was longer. Different tone. More rattled. I had no idea he was still pretending. "He told me he left you months ago. Said you were staying in the house because you had nowhere else to go. He even asked me to move in last week. Thank you for telling me everything. I've blocked him. I'm so sorry." And just like that, he lost us both. But that's not what shook me the most. It was what came at the end of her message, almost like a postscript. "Also, you might want to talk to a woman named Celine." He mentioned her once. I didn't think anything of it until now. Celine? I didn't know a Celine. But I was about to. And what I'd find next would unravel the last thread of the man I thought I married. I couldn't stop staring at that last line in Elise's message. "You might want to talk to a woman named Celine." It haunted me. Who was she? Another affair? Another version of me he'd created? My mind ran wild. Maybe she was nothing. Maybe Elise had misheard. But deep down, I knew better. I searched every trace of Celine I could think of, his contacts, social media, even our shared cloud backup. Nothing came up. But then I remembered something. Once, about 6 months ago, I'd seen a random transaction on our credit card bill from a high-end flower shop. When I asked him about it, he said it was for a client gift. I looked it up again. The store had an online ordering system. And there it was, his name, his email, and a delivery to Celine M., along with a note. "You always make me feel seen. J." My stomach dropped. I tracked the address. It was a condo in a city an hour away. I knew someone who lived nearby, my cousin, Nia. She owed me a favor and didn't ask too many questions. I gave her the address and told her to see if she could figure out who lived there. The next day, she sent me a screenshot of the tenant directory. Celine Marchand. And underneath her name, speech therapist. Something clicked. About a year ago, my husband claimed he was going to weekly public speaking workshops to help with nerves during presentations. I remember thinking it was weird, he never struck me as nervous about anything. But he said it helped with his job, so I supported it. Turns out, he hadn't been going to a workshop. He was seeing her. But not just for speech therapy. There was more. I could feel it. So I did something I hadn't done since college. I created a fake email account. Something generic, forgettable. And I emailed her. Subject, just need clarity message, I think we might have something in common. His name is, my husband's name. I'm not here to accuse, just to understand. If you've got 5 minutes, please let me know. She responded within an hour. And what she said? That was the moment I realized I didn't even know the man I married. Celine's reply was short but polite. She asked if we could talk by phone, said it was too complicated for email. I hesitated, but I gave her my number. She called that evening. Her voice was calm, professional, even kind. The kind of tone you use when you're trying to talk someone down from a ledge. I could tell she didn't know where to start. She began by confirming she did know my husband. They met during a corporate seminar he attended over a year ago. He approached her afterward and asked for speech coaching. Said he struggled with expressing emotions, wanted to be a better communicator. She told me he was charming, self-deprecating, surprisingly vulnerable. I stayed silent, just letting her talk. She said they'd been meeting weekly for months. At first, it was all work-focused. Then, it turned personal. Deep talks, emotional bonding, dinners after sessions. She admitted she developed feelings for him, but thought it was mutual. He told her he was divorced. That he was starting over, trying to become a better man before getting into something serious again. Said his last relationship had been draining and that his ex couldn't handle his emotional needs. Classic. They kissed once, she said. But something felt wrong. She started pulling back. Told him she wanted honesty before going any further. That's when things got strange. He ghosted her. Completely. 1 week he was pouring his heart out, the next is gone. Until, randomly, flowers arrived at her office. You always make me feel seen. Jay. That was 6 months ago. She never responded, never saw him again. Said she still thought about that weird, abrupt ending sometimes. Said she felt stupid for not digging deeper. But she was grateful I reached out. And then, as we were wrapping up, she asked, "Can I tell you something strange?" I said yes. She said that during one of their early sessions, he slipped up and mentioned his son. But then immediately corrected himself and said, "If I ever have one." She didn't press him on it at the time, assumed it was a mistake or a hypothetical. But the way he said it, she said, it was like he already had one. Or maybe more than one. That word hit like a thunderclap. Son. We never had children. He told me he never had children. But suddenly, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something else he never told me. That maybe, just maybe, this wasn't just about cheating. Maybe it was about another life entirely. After the call with Celine, I couldn't sleep. My mind latched onto that one word, son. Over and over. He never slipped like that with me. Never said anything that hinted at a secret child. But now, everything felt like it could be a lie. I started digging again. Not through his things, he'd already taken most of them, but through the digital trail he left behind. Old emails, saved passwords, cloud storage. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. I just knew I couldn't let it go. 2 days later, I found something. An old Gmail account tied to one of his side projects. I'd forgotten about it, but I still had access. He once asked me to help him with a newsletter and shared the login. I tried it, same password he always used. It worked. Most of it was junk. Promo emails, spam. But then, a message caught my eye. It was from a woman named Maya, dated 9 months ago. Subject, update, Jaden's school forms. I opened it. My heart dropped. The email thanked him for sending over insurance info, and reminded him that Jaden's emergency contact list still needed to be updated. She attached school paperwork. I scanned it, hand trembling. Father, my husband's full name, child, Jaden M. age, 4. I stared at that number, 4. That meant he'd had a child during our first year of marriage. While we were still in newlywed bliss, planning our future, painting the nursery in our minds, he was already someone's father. I checked the attachments again. There were birthday photos. A little boy with curly brown hair and his smile. His smile. No mistaking it. And I, his wife, had never been told. Not only did he lie about the vasectomy. Not only did he gaslight me for over a year. He already had a family. A child. A life outside of the one we were building. I sat there, reading and rereading the messages Maya had sent him over the past year. They were cordial, businesslike, co-parenting talk. Mentions of your weekend with him and he misses you when you're busy. It was all there. Clear as day. He wasn't just cheating. He was juggling entire lives. I didn't confront him. I didn't even call. What was the point? He knew what he was doing. This wasn't a slip. It was a double life, built on precision and lies. So I did what he never expected. I forwarded everything, every message, every form, every photo, to my lawyer. Then I sent a final message to him. I know everything. Don't contact me again. Your son is beautiful. I hope one day, he learns what kind of man you really are. No reply. He didn't fight the divorce. Didn't even show up in court. Just signed, vanished. It's been 3 months now. I've moved out, started therapy, and gone no contact. Some days I feel powerful. Other days I feel like I'm drowning in everything I lost. But here's the truth, I didn't lose a husband. I lost a mask. And underneath it, there was never really a man. Just a stranger with too many faces. Update. Last week, I got a message from Maya. Just 4 words. I didn't know either. We're meeting for coffee next week. Maybe some closure can come from the wreckage. Maybe not. But one thing's certain. He underestimated both of us.